Buongiorno a tutti e bentornati a Crave. Welcome back to Crave Season 6. This season we continue to bridge the USA and Italy, celebrating Italian culture, language, the Italian American lifestyle, and of course the 49er football and much more. But Crave is not just a show, it's a community where stories come to life, voices are heard, and connections are made. Crave is about people who are passionate about what they do and what they want to go. Happy Valentine's Week to everyone. Stay tuned for a special guest later, love coach Margherita Ventura, who will share insight on love, relationship, and self-connection. Join me in studio today is my partner in this adventure, Alex Lopez, with a latest 49ers update. Buongiorno, Alex.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, come stai?
We jumping right into the check-in. You know what? I'm doing really good. Doing really good. I'm excited for this week, not because of Valentine's Day, but because there's a new Marvel movie, and I'm going to go see it on Thursday.
Nice. I love it.
I'm excited for that. What about you?
I'm good. I'm good to be back here, of course. When I'm here, I'm always good, I feel.
I know. I always feel good when we come here and do our show. Yeah.
Right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's start. This episode of Crave is proudly sponsored by Consulate General of Italy and the Italian Culture Institute of San Francisco. Their support allows us to celebrate and share Italian culture, language, and innovation with a wider audience. For more information, visit their websites at the links below. And now, it's time for the Italian language spotlight. Join Vania for L'Angolo della Lingua Italiana, where she takes us through the beauty of Italian language. Vania, a te la parola.
Buongiorno, ciao Samantha, ciao Alex. Benvenuti a questo angolo della lingua italiana. Ogni giorno avremo una parola nuova, so every day we'll have a new word. La parola di oggi è buono. Buono means good. Il gelato è buono. La pizza è buona. Gli spaghetti sono buoni. Right? Yum, buono. E usiamo buono anche per i saluti. Buongiorno, buongiorno, buonasera, buonanotte. Ma usiamo buono anche per la festa di questa settimana. Buon San Valentino. Happy Valentine's Day. Quindi la parola per questa settimana è buono. Buon San Valentino a tutti. Ciao.
Ciao, buon San Valentino.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for joining us on Crave. February is all about love, and today we are joined by Margherita Ventura, a certified Somatica sex and relationship coach. Born in Florence, Italy, and now based in US, she helps people build deeper, more authentic connection. Margherita, welcome back to Crave.
Okay, nice to see you.
What inspired you to become an intimacy and relationship coach?
Yeah, so what inspired me was my marriage was on the rocks and I had to rescue it. And so I decided to go back to school and I studied to become a relationship and intimacy coach. And that took me on a long journey to become a trauma practitioner and then an attachment-informed practitioner. And so it became my life. It became my career. Yeah.
For those unfamiliar, can you explain what the Somatica method is and how it's different from traditional therapy?
It's a very good question. So Somatica, soma, is the Greek word for body. And so differently from talk therapy, regular therapy, which is something most of us are familiar with, when we do somatic therapy, it's the body that is being also taken into consideration. So the relationship body-mind. So while in talk therapy, the focus is more on the cognitive and verbal restructuring, in somatic therapy, we take into consideration that the body might cover up for layers that otherwise through the verbal therapy you might not be able to uncover. So let's say that you're talking about a person or an event, and all of a sudden your right shoulder starts flinching or your feet start bouncing. You might be talking about how pleasant the experience was, and I might be noticing that there is some response. There are responses in your body that you might not even be aware of. So I make a mental note of what is happening, and then I invite the client to take into consideration what is happening. I'm like, oh, I noticed that when you mentioned that, you started flinching, or you started bouncing, or there was a little bit of constriction in your neck. What is happening? And so we also ask the body to give us some answers, and you'd be so surprised by the amount of answers that we can uncover when we take the body into consideration. Then you might notice, oh my God, I realize that when I think about that person, I feel tense, I feel constriction. No, now I'm realizing I'm feeling some shame, I'm feeling some guilt. So then we start also working on those responses, which are gold.
Okay, I just have to say I'm so excited that you've come back to Crave because I can't tell you how much the last 2 times you did for the radio show, how that helped me in a lot of different ways. Right now I'm in this very awkward phase, I would say, with relationships and love and all that. And being that it's Valentine's Day coming up, what advice do you have for singles who feel lonely or have like a pressure kind of thrown upon them?
So Alex, first of all, thank you for your vulnerability. I haven't been single in 20 years. And so I called upon my friends, because I have a lot of, the majority of my friends are single, and the majority of my friends also are single by choice. So I have a few that are not, and I was wondering how they're doing, because I never thought about it. I also don't celebrate Valentine's Day, so I asked them, how are you doing? Like, how do you deal with this? And most of them told me, the ones who are not single by choice, they told me it's not easy. And I asked them, what do you do? And the answer that came up was, I treat myself. So I either pair up with friends and hang out with friends. I would say the one thing that is really important here to know is that, especially nowadays, relationships are not an easy thing. It's not easy to be out of a relationship. It's not easy to be in a relationship. So I want to normalize that. Mm-hmm. And I also want to say that you are not broken for not being in a relationship at the moment. There's nothing broken with you. And as much as you can, if you can get into the practice of microdosing pleasure, and I'll talk a little bit more if you want about this, but microdosing pleasure is really the ability to stay in with what brings you pleasure on a daily basis. If that is something that you start exploring, it's really going to pay off once you are in a relationship, because you start learning what really brings you pleasure as an individual. And when you go into a relationship, it is something that is really important to have, because you want to master the art of connection, but also staying separate, having your own individual space. So you're really building up a muscle that becomes essential once you are in a relationship.
When people find balance and start appreciating themselves more, they tend to raise their standards and become more selective in the relationship. What is the best way to navigate this shift while stay open to love?
So becoming more selective and staying open to love, or as singles, or within the relationship?
Maybe both.
Both.
It is a very good question. I would say becoming more selective. I don't think there's anything wrong with being more selective. I have to be honest, that part of my training, for those of us who are socialized as females, part of my training was addressing the Prince Charming myth. which unfortunately we need to address. There was a lot of uproaring when that happened. There was a lot of, why do I have to do that? So I would say that remember that your needs matter and your boundaries matter. So when you are in a relationship, even if there are things that, even if you crave for more attunement or for more better communication tools or for your needs to feel met, you have a right to that. You don't have to find a person that attunes to you 100% in the beginning, because you can also teach another person who doesn't know you, who doesn't know your boundaries, who doesn't know your needs. You can teach them, you can guide them into understanding you and understanding how you feel the most attuned. Because I think that the myth of if you really loved me, you would understand 100% of me, it's a recipe for disappointment. Mm-hmm. So trust that you can really guide somebody into understanding you.
What are some common barriers people face in achieving deeper intimacy, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I want to say that if I think about deeper intimacy, and I'm assuming here you're talking about emotional intimacy, but I can also talk about physical intimacy. But when it comes to emotional intimacy, the biggest enemy within a relationship is resentment. Now, resentment, I want to highlight biggest enemy. Very normal, though, to end up in a situation where you do build up resentment. Now, why does that happen? Because oftentimes it's because we're lacking proper communication tools. So we go into conflict, which is very normal in every relationship, and then that conflict goes unrepaired, goes unchecked. So we do need to learn the tools to repair conflict. And here's the great news. First news, again, conflict is unavoidable in every relationship. So if you're hoping to get into a relationship where you're not going to have conflicts, whether it be a familiar, parental relationship, friendly relationship, romantic relationship, you're in for disappointment because there's going to be conflict. But the good thing about conflict is that it can be used to deepen intimacy. Again, with the proper communication tools. The biggest conflict within my almost 20-year-old relationship became the biggest opportunity for closeness and intimacy. Again, we have to sit with each other and really listen and really be open to the other person telling us, you've hurt me and I'm disappointed. And being able to hold space for that. And that takes practice. So in my practice, this is something that we practice. Also building the muscle, building the tolerance for disappointing, which is if by now you are disassociating, if your thoughts are going somewhere else, take note of that, because that means there's something inside you is not fully comfortable with the idea of letting somebody down. And this is a muscle that you might need to build within a relationship. Because let me promise you, you'll leave your partner down at one point.
Great. How do you guide clients in communicating their needs and boundary effectively within a relationship?
That is, I want to say needs and boundaries is a lifetime journey. I want to normalize that. I've been studying for now 5 years. Yeah. And boundaries are still a journey for me. With that said, the first thing that I like to understand about my clients, because needs and boundaries are really a gift to the relationship. They're a gift. And without those, we're going to end up building up resentment, which is, again, the number one enemy of every relationship. So the first thing that I like to do is to assess really if my client believes deeply that they have a right to their boundaries and needs. If they don't believe that it is their birthright to talk about their boundaries and needs, then that is part of my work. I need to really let their body and their cognitive, mental space understand, deeply embody that it is their birthright. Once we do that, another part of the work is really assessing what are the fears, the voices that do come up when they're about to express a need and a boundary. We can do this here with you, Alex and Samantha. If you think about a boundary or a need that you've longed to express, but you haven't yet, whether it is to a friend or to a partner or to a coworker or a boss, just think about it for a second. And notice if in your body there is any constriction at all, maybe some tension, maybe some fluttering, maybe some anxiety, anything that bubbles up, and see if that part of you had a voice, what would it tell us?
How can someone rediscover their passion for love and dating after a heartbreak?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So as I mentioned, first, grief is really a reason why sometimes a libido can go to sleep and feel almost frozen for a while. So I would say really accept that you are grieving. A heartbreak needs the same delicacy that we would grant anybody who's going through the loss of someone they really love. So with that said, be really gentle with yourself, be delicate, be kind, and consider that, again, you need time to thaw. And in order for that thawing to happen, I want to bring a concept from another coworker of mine, Euphemia Russell, who's incredible. And their idea is that you want to start by microdosing pleasure. I actually bring this in my practice every day with my clients. And by microdosing pleasure, what I mean is really taking bits, morsels of pleasure. So let's say you love the sun and you love standing in the sun. Where is the sun landing on your skin right here, right now? Where do you feel it? And when do you feel it? How does that impact your body? And in order to stay with it a little bit longer, observe the sensations. See if you can build capacity for that. Oh, I'm noticing that. There's a tingling in my neck. Or I'm noticing that. I don't know, my upper back is relaxing. Same thing when you're taking a shower, when you're putting some moisturizer on, when you're eating your favorite gelato. And start by taking yourself in small dates. I know it sounds, for some might sound a little bit sad, but really spend time with this concept of taking bits and pieces of pleasure.
At Crave, we celebrate passion. Behind your work, what truly lights you up?
What really lights me up is to make others feel gotten and feel that everything about them is okay, that there's nothing broken with them. Really allowing others to tap into their own okayness is what really lights me up. But I have to say, also cooking, making desserts while I'm watching rom-coms.
Love it.
Love it. Margherita, how people can get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. I have an office in West Berkeley. I see people in West Berkeley, and my website is intimacycoach.love. I also work online. And and I also have a YouTube channel, but it's very new and there's only a few videos. But
No, that's great.
Thank you so much, Margherita.
Yes, I could be here all day talking to you. I'm not kidding.
Yes. And we get to see you soon. Thank you so much, Margherita.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.
Grazie.
This episode of Crave is sponsored by Alice Becker in Dodd, a family-run business with over 30 years of experience in the fashion industry. They offer unique clothing for every age and size, always going the extra mile for their customers. Visit them in Nevada or online at www.alicebeckerinc.com.
Thank you to Alice Becker Inc. for supporting this episode. Now, Alex, what's going on with the 49ers?
Okay, so the biggest news right now is that the Niners have granted Deebo Samuel and his agent, Tori Dandy, permission to find a trade partner for the wide receiver. Deebo told this to ESPN. This comes after he apparently asked the Niners to trade him during the players' exit meetings after the season. He said on February 9th, quote, It was a hard conversation to have with Kyle Shanahan because of the relationship that we have, but I have to do what's best. I'm more than thankful for the Niners giving me the opportunity of a lifetime, but now I think it's best that we find another team. I think the most surprising part to me is that Deebo was the one that asked for this. Like, almost like you know that you're about to get broken up with, so you do it first. We're on theme with Margherita today. And the only thing that makes me truly sad, and I think a lot of other Niner fans are feeling this way, is that you think of Deebo in his 2021 season and how special he was. He truly put the Niners on his back all the way to the NFC Championship game versus the Rams. But honestly, he just hasn't been the same these past couple of seasons, especially last season. I mean, there was just controversy from the beginning of last season with him starting his own podcast, and the controversy with Tabor Pepper, him complaining about not getting the ball enough, and then dropping the game-winning touchdown versus the Rams on Thursday Night Football that could have literally led us into the playoffs. But at the end of the day, the NFL is a business, and I think moves like this, are just a part of the reality of the game. And now that the wide receiver room is wide open, I'm kind of looking at Davante Adams like, hold on, what's going on here? I do wish that him, like this unit with Deebo, could have gotten that ring together, but you know what? It wasn't meant to be. On a more exciting note, the 49ers have begun contract negotiations with agents for Brock Purdy, who are aiming to kind of have the deal done, quote, soon. And this is per Diana Rossini, who's an NFL insider for The Athletic. I just need to know how soon is soon, because I was told soon with Brandon Ayuk, I was told soon with Nick Bosa, and I was even told soon with Deebo Samuel. Although I do trust that both sides will actively work to get this done within reason, too. I feel very, calm. I think more calm than I was with Brandon and way more calm than I was with Nick Bosa. So I feel good.
Super Bowl 60 is coming to Levi Stadium in 2026.
Yeah.
Could the 49ers actually play in their own Super Bowl at home?
They could, and I'm hoping that they will. Not to steal the Ramley's thunder, but they did that a couple years ago. So I'm hoping that we have that same luck. And I feel very positive looking forward to this season. I feel like we have a shot. I know not everybody is kind of counting the Niners in, but I feel like we have a good shot of doing it. And you and I have to go. I'm not kidding.
Yes, we have to go. I can't wait.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Before we wrap up today's 49ers offseason update, fuel up with the official energy drink of greatness, Goat Fuel, co-founded by the GOAT himself, Jerry Rice. Use our affiliate code to get 10% off your order. It's the perfect way to power up and support the show. The link is in the description down below. Thank you for tuning in to the second episode of our 6th season. Follow us on Instagram at crave.show. We're on Apple Music, Spotify, iHeart, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe.
And make sure you check our website, craveshow.com. craveshow.com. Ciao a tutti, ci vediamo settimana prossima and happy Valentine's Week. Buon San Valentino a tutti.
Buon
Ciao.
San Valentino.
Yes.
Ah!
Ciao, grazie.